My name is Stephen Kukowski. We'll be spending the next 45 minutes together, and it's going to be fun, all right? We are going to be talking about what the foodie traveler needs to know and what I think you need to know about food. There's a lot of interesting, fun stuff in here that you're not going to expect. We're going to travel to different ports that we're going to, some different ports that we've been to, okay? If you get to go back to some of the ports we've been to, you'll do some of the things that I talk about here. Now, before I start, I want to tell you about your pins. For those of you who have not been to one of my shows, in the back, there's going to be a young lady with a big red bucket full of pins. You get a different pin for every one of my shows that you attend. At the end of the cruise, if you collect all 5 of those pins, I am going to personally say, congratulations, what are you going to do with 5 more pins? Okay? But you can put them all over the place. There's some people have 200-300 pins hanging around their neck. I mean, you could be the next boat anchor if we have to stop someplace. All right? Now, don't forget to see Nancy. All right, we got a few sea days coming up, but Nancy is our marine biologist on board and our naturalist, and she does some absolutely amazing shows. She's in the auditorium upstairs. When you see that she's going to be talking, don't miss her shows. And lastly, before we begin, I want to tell you about the other shows that I do on the cruise, okay? For those of you who missed anything, I did a digital cell phone and digital camera photography show already. If you missed it, you'll have to sign up for another Carnival cruise. I'll be glad to give it again. I'm going to be doing, the Celestial Navigation. How many missed the Celestial Navigation? That's one of the most fun shows that I do all over the world. If enough people ask, maybe I'll do it again, okay? Okay, but you got to ask, all right? I am going to be doing a social media show besides this one. The ins and outs of using social media, how to protect yourself, how to be safe, and most importantly, how to know what your kids and grandkids are doing behind your back. And you're going to be surprised. And you're going to be surprised at some of the other stuff I tell you in that show. And then my favorite show, and one of the most popular shows I do all over the world, is the scandalous, risque private lives of French Impressionists to mid-20th century artists. And there is some real fun stuff in there. Everything they couldn't teach you in school because you were too young, I'm going to give you a wake-up call, okay? And I show a very funny video in it. If I don't get thrown off the ship for that one, I never will. You got to come to that show. It's my favorite. But before we start, for those of you who have not been to one of my shows, everybody's always asking about credentials. What are this guy's credentials? Has he been around the block a few times? Has he done any of this? Is he involved in anything he talks about? Well, take a close look up at the screen, guys. This is not a bucket list. My wife and I have traveled extensively all over the world for 45 years. For 35 years, we did independent third world travel, a lot of it with no guide, sleeping in jungles, places that were totally not westernized yet. It's been a fascinating life that I've had, and I'm going to share a lot of it with you. I've also eaten at all those places. That's just a partial list at countries all over the world. I try everything. Don't be afraid to eat almost anything. I currently lecture all over the United States. I also lecture internationally for Carnival Cruise Lines all over the world. I've been a regular guest in the United States on ABC, NBC, the Live Well Network. For those of you who watch the Disney Channel, I've been on the Disney Channel quite a bit. For those of you who like the Home Decorating Network with Flip This House, those type of programs, been a frequent guest on those kind of programs too. I told you I'm talking about art. I'll be doing an art show. Does anything qualify me to do that show? Well, I'm going to be 70 next year. I've been collecting fine art and antiques for over 50 years, and I have loaned things out of my collection to museums on different ends of the United States. On top of that, I also have a private museum that I built that is not open to the public. It's open to any group that wants to come and write a check to a charity. I don't keep any money. So you're welcome to find out about that. If you want my card, I'll give you my card. Peruse the website. It's a lot of fun. It's antique automobiles, vintage caravans dating from the 20s into the 60s. I've been on numerous radio talk shows, published in newspapers, magazines. I've written books, so yes. I have been around the block just a few more than a couple of times. So sit back and enjoy. This is a fun show. What's the difference between Brussels sprouts and boogers? What better way to start a food show, guys? Kids don't eat Brussels sprouts. That's the difference. And it's a good thing. Actually, I want to look around the ship, some of the adults too. But it's a good thing that as we grow older, our palates become a little more refined and our taste in food change. And since we're all adults here, we're going to move on to foods that adults enjoy and kids enjoy. First, I want to talk about new food trends all over the world, not just where I come from. Local sourcing of food from farm to table. It's a new trend all over the world, actually. This connects local farmers and consumers who live in the same area. And I can tell you from experience, this vastly improves the flavor of everything you serve at home. It also helps small farmers stay in business. So give it a whirl. Go to some of the farmers markets in your area. A lot of our supermarket chains, maybe in Australia also, are jumping on the bandwagon of this new trend. You will see local foods, sourced locally, organic stuff, especially during the summer. Taste it. Might cost more, but it tastes radically different. Now here's a great example of why you've got to be concerned where the food you eat comes from and why you have to read the labels so you don't get sick. Look up there on the screen. What do all those things have in common? Well, a lot of overseas governments, including China, don't have federal food inspection programs like you have in your country, we have in our country, all right? In the past, the not so distant past, milk and infant formula made in China was actually killing some babies and making a lot of babies sick all over the world. They were using melamine in it. Melamine is supposed to be used in concrete, not in baby formula or milk. Melamine was being found in eggs and other products from China since it made its way into the food chain. Toothpaste in the United States. Believe it or not, recently one of the manufacturers was putting one ingredient that's commonly used in automobile antifreeze to help thicken it up. It was making people sick. So you've got to read the labels. Even pet food. 2 years ago, pet food coming from China was making a lot of animals sick and they were dying. Read the labels. Fido depends on you for everything too, okay? Now, here's another example of why you need to read labels very closely, and this happened to me. Several years ago, just a couple years ago, I went to a big organic natural food chain store in the United States in California where I live, where we are real nutcases on eating organic, and I bought a bag of frozen veggies, and on the front it said on the packaging, organic California veggies. That's why I bought it. Well, I got it home, and when I tore it open, the package fell on the counter upside down. You know what it said on the back of the package? Product of China, in really small print. And on the front, organic California veggies. Well, I don't know what they were thinking, and they may have been organic, but I'll bet you the organic system of checking in China is a whole lot different than your country or my country. And at the same time I found this, within a week, I was watching TV, and this was on the screen. I grabbed my cell phone and I took a picture of it. ABC TV, a reporter found the same thing and put it on there. And it was Whole Foods. That's a very famous food store chain in our country. This was on national TV, and guess what? They no longer sell food from China, and they no longer label the packages wrong. But you know what? They didn't do it until they were caught. They'd still be doing it if they didn't get caught. Read your labels, guys. Now, going along with this idea is farmers markets. These are sprouting up all over the world, all right? Every port we've been to, usually every port we go to, you can find a farmer's market. Not all of them. Give it a whirl. Farmers markets are a real fun atmosphere. There's a lot of times there's music, there's local handicrafts, and my favorite, food samples. I love the food samples. They become an event for the entire family. If you have one in your area, you meet your neighbors there. You can actually buy lunch there, have a picnic, meet your local farmer. Get to know who you're buying your food from. It's very, very important. Now this is really cool. I did a tour in California. How do you get organic straw? How can you get everything without pesticides? Well, guess what? You can, and this was a wake-up for me. In California, these farmers actually have a contraption, a vacuum cleaner. They hook it up to their tractors, and they go up and down all the rows of strawberries. And what this thing does, it's got twin turbines in the back. It sucks up all of the bugs and stuff, all the dead vegetation, blows it through the turbines, turns it into mulch, and blows it out the back. 100% pesticide-free strawberries, and they taste radically different. Okay, so try some organic strawberries sometimes. Now here's a funny story, something that happened to me, farmer's market, not that long ago. Now I mentioned my favorite thing, free samples, right? Well, my wife and I were walking around the farmer's market in Santa Cruz where we live, and I eat everything. And I love garlic, but I've never bought at this particular time a whole clove of roasted garlic. You know what I'm talking about? Oil on the top, it's baked, it's delicious. You pop them out and you smear them around. Well, we tasted some and it was delicious. So good that we bought 4 cloves, 4 whole garlics. Took them home, broke open a box of crackers, some wine, and we ate 2 whole cloves myself, and my wife ate 2 whole cloves herself. That's about 20 little popping out things. Well, let me tell you something. This is really interesting, all right? About 4 in the morning, I woke up. My little dog sleeps between us under the covers, okay? I woke up and went, whoa. And my wife woke up at the same time, and she shakes the covers and says, Stephen, I think the dog died. I said, what's the matter? She goes, it smells really bad. I put the covers out, and my dog's eyes were like going, well, the next morning, we called the doctor and found out you don't eat 2 cloves of garlic each because you'll die, okay? It causes gas to emanate from you know where, really nasty gas, all right? Well, we have tested this theory a few times, okay? Now that, guys, is true love, okay? And fortunately, the dog wasn't dead. The dog was not dead, but you know what? She sleeps at the foot of the bed. She figured it out. She does not sleep under the covers with us anymore. And we're still together after all these years, okay? Well, armed with that information, this is another true story, armed with that information. Now, I told you I collect vintage caravans, okay? Several times a year, we have a vintage caravan rally where maybe 150, 200 caravans will get together in a state park, and we have a 4-day party. We camp, have bonfires, all kinds of stuff. So this young couple pulls up next to us in this really cute 1950-something camper caravan. And they just got married, said just married on the back. They're all full of themselves, got a little table outside, little chairs. And I told my wife, let's have them over. They never been to a rally before. They just bought that thing. And I brought 4 cloves of garlic with us to play a joke on somebody. She said, you didn't do that, did you? I said, yes, I did. So I made up crackers and garlic, nice bottle of wine, said, hey guys, come on over, it's your first rally, we'll shoot the breeze tonight. So they came over and we sat back and they went for it, just like Janae and I did the first time, all right? They ate all of it, they didn't leave anything, and they were sleeping in something that was only from here to that screen. Well, the next morning I got up. Janae, I'm gonna go take a bicycle ride. I jumped on my bike, and I backed up, I saw their trailer, the paint was peeling off, the windows were open, there was a dead bird on the roof. And they had gone to bed, 7 o'clock in the evening, think we'll go to bed, we're newlyweds, right? Boy, they got to know each other real well that night. Let's talk about beekeeping for a second, all right? Beekeeping is a big hobby, it's popping up all over the United States, maybe in Australia too, I'm not sure. Well, even young urban professionals are doing it in their yards as hobbies, on their rooftops, in their yards, in small courtyards, okay? We have somebody very famous in our country, Martha Stewart. You ever hear of Martha Stewart? Well, remember she went to prison? That's where she took up beekeeping, in her little private courtyard. Okay, just kidding. All right, this is my friend Desmond's backyard beehive, okay? Now Desmond started beekeeping just a couple years ago, organic beekeeping, all right? Always eat organic. He produced 60 pounds of honey his first year. His neighbor across the street, when I interviewed him for this show, was his mentor and his teacher. Beehives right across the street from each other. Well, I tasted his neighbor's honey, I tasted my honey. They were radically different in the same neighborhood. And I asked him about that. He says, because his bees fly in another direction. They get their pollen from totally different flowers than mine do. That was kind of interesting. Honey tastes very, very different. He even won a prize his first year out for his honey and his beeswax candles. Now Desmond's about 6'5". Desmond's really big, about 300 pounds. And there's several lessons he had to learn the hard way. First and foremost, I took that picture when I first visited him and he first took up beekeeping. Being that big and that large, you don't wear black if you're a beekeeper, because the bees instinctively think you are a bear and they sting you. And they stung him a lot that day. What did he do? He went out and he bought a white suit, all right? And that's what he wears, the beekeeper's uniform. It's part of why they wear it. Now listen to this. The next couple slides are really interesting. Here's something I never realized. Take a close look at that chart. Without honeybees pollinating our crops, we would have way less to eat, guys. Take a close look. This is just a very small partial list of the food that depends on bees. That being said, let me tell you something a little bit scary, all right? Have you ever heard of colony collapse disorder? All right, a few people have. Well, a lot of you are going to hear about it right now. This is a huge problem in the United States, and every country I mention it in, there are people who say, yes, we're familiar with it. Bees are mysteriously dying, leaving their hives or dying. Now, the experts are not exactly sure why this is taking place, but they think it's because of a new type of pesticide, a pesticide that has nicotine embedded in it, okay? Well, when the plant grows, the pesticide's embedded in the entire plant, including the flowers where the bees get their nectar, okay? Guess what? It's also in the fruit and the veggies that we eat. It makes its way through the food system. Europe has banned this pesticide. In the United States, they haven't. So always read your labels, all right? Anyway, it's very beneficial for bees making honey, especially organic, good, healthy honey, in a backyard beehive as opposed to commercially. This is because the bees will probably be taking their nectar from wild flowers, not farmed plants and flowers. Wild flowers in gardens that are not treated with this pesticide. So buy your stuff at a farmer's market, all right? Well, here's a good one. Afternoon, 2 o'clock. Time for a cold one, right? Well, a lot of eyeballs lit up there. Let's talk about beer, and let's talk about microbreweries for a second, all right? Now, a microbrewery is a brewery that produces very small amounts of beer. Microbreweries are usually independently owned, and they put their emphasis not on quantity, they put it on quality, flavor, and brewing techniques. That's why it's a microbrewery. They're not real big. They become a real cool meeting place for really cool people. And these microbreweries and these really cool people are popping up all over the world, okay? Lots of people become members of microbrewery clubs, okay? Here, take a look up here. Members receive monthly shipments of beer. They attend parties. This is an all-women's microbrewery party. I found out about this and I tried to join. It's still an all-women's microbrewery company. To go along with this new trend, home brewing. Home brewing is becoming very popular too. This is usually done in a basement or a garage, and the equipment you need is readily available and very cheap. Now, at beer festivals, large beer festivals, homebrewed beer is now being judged along with microbreweries and a lot of the winning breweries. There's a lot of experimentation going on at home breweries. The last home brew to win at the Seattle Festival was vanilla oatmeal stout beer. Ugh. Well, guess what? Sounds gross to me, but if you drink enough of anything, have you noticed everything starts to taste better? There you have it, all right? Now, handcrafted beer has been elevated to a new sophisticated drink, just like wine. People even have beer cellars at their home like they have wine cellars with their fancy beers. And they have beer tastings just like wine tasting. And just like wine tasting, there's a technique. You swirl it, you smell it, and you sip it. That's the three basics, just like wine tasting. That's what people do. And you'll be surprised. Real surprised. These guys are surprised. You think any of these guys are going to go through a beer tasting like I just explained? No, that guy on the right's going to say, bring me whatever you got on tap, buddy. I'm not doing that. Now, here's a beer that's really a notch up above all the rest. Guinness. Y'all familiar with Guinness? Yeah, everyone's familiar with Guinness. If you ever travel to Ireland and you go to a real pub, order yourself a Guinness. It's really an experience worth going through, all right? Stuff almost tastes like chocolate, but there's a little Guinness etiquette that you have to know before ordering your first. Be patient. I did not know this when we went to Ireland, okay? A couple years ago, we went to Ireland. We went to an old pub. Someone said, go in there and order a Guinness. So we did. Now, the bartender poured us a Guinness from the tap. He got distracted by some other patrons, and then he started talking to the guy down the bar, and he left both of our Guinnesses half poured on the counter where I couldn't reach them. Half poured. Well, soon the other locals joined in, okay? And we sat and we waited and waited and waited. And we were fuming to ourselves, okay? He ignoring the only Americans in there. Well, finally, he came back and he finished pouring it. He set it in front of us and we didn't even smile at him, all right? I really didn't like the guy at the time, hoping he'd get the message. Well, one sip and our frowns disappeared. It was amazing. My wife was hooked. And we soon noticed that everyone in the bar that was talking to each other, I looked behind the bar, and there was another 10 half-poured Guinnesses. And they were waiting too, but they weren't complaining because that's part of the way you pour a Guinness. When you pour a Guinness, you do a half pour, and you let it set for about 5 minutes, and the flavor intensifies. And then they top it off with the foam, and then they serve it. Well, we wound up sitting there all afternoon drinking Guinness with everybody else after we explained how impatient we were, and we were not the ugly Americans, all right? Food trucks. You guys have food trucks? We have food trucks. We're starting to see them all over the place. And food trucks aren't like your grandfather's food trucks or the trucks when you were little kids growing up. No, food trucks used to look like this thing. They'd sell greasy, nasty food, hot dogs, horrible hamburgers, and it was bad. They should have had a diarrhea medicine dispensing machine on the back of these things. And nobody ate off an old food truck and didn't get sick. Well, times have changed, everybody. This is what a lot of food trucks look like now. That's barbecue food truck. There are food trucks that are so fancy, and I've tasted some amazing, innovative food off of food trucks. You're going to be surprised. I got something good to tell you in a few minutes. Now, here's something I found interesting when I was writing this. Since food trucks don't have permanent locations like restaurants, they use social media to advertise. All right? That alone, using social media to let you know where they are, that alone is enough to come to my social media show. Don't miss it. All right? It's going to be another day. Sometimes these food trucks have to play hide and seek with the locals, with the police, because they don't have permits. They make them move all over the place. But they go to Facebook and they go to Twitter, and you can go on there and all their regulars know exactly where they are all the time, and you won't miss anything. And lo and behold, someone came up with an app for food trucks. You can go on your phone and download the app, and you can find food trucks just about anywhere you're at and enjoy it. Now, some cities are actually encouraging food trucks. It's allowing new chefs to enter business without a huge restaurant investment, and it helps with local unemployment. A lot of cities actually let food trucks assemble maybe once a week in a large open abandoned lot somewhere. This here up on the screen, every Friday night in San Francisco, they let a lot of food trucks set up, and thousands of people come every Friday night. And you have a great variety of food to try off of these trucks. Food trucks have been so popular in our country, we have something called a Zagat system where they rate the restaurants how great they are. Zagat rate restaurant food trucks also how good they are. That's pretty impressive. And one food truck can become a stepping stone to an empire, guys. For example, Cool House Ice Cream. This guy started with one small food truck. In 2 years, he's got 11 trucks, and his ice cream is sold in 2,500 stores. Just in 2 years. That's pretty impressive. Some of the food truck chefs, they become famous nationally. This guy here, Roy Choi, is a very famous food truck owner and TV celebrity. We have a show in our country on TV called Top Chef, where all the upcoming chefs compete to win a prize. Roy Choi is now one of the judges on that show, and he started out with one food truck not that long ago. I'm hoping that this is a trend that's going to be around for quite a long time. This one I really love, roulettes. Listen up on this one, because you're about to experience it, guys. Roulettes are food trucks that are set up after dark on most of the French Polynesian islands. There's usually tables and chairs set up outside of all the food trucks. You can go to this one and sit here, this one and sit here. You can test all of them. You can sit down, have a dinner, snack, lunch, right on the spot out of the roulettes, out of the food trucks. Now we're going to be staying late tomorrow in Papeete. Guess what happens when the sun starts going down? Right near the ship is where they have okayed to set up their food trucks. So on your way back to the trip, don't be afraid to stop there at the roulettes and order food from all these trucks. Sit there and have dinner. You will definitely see me there. I go there every time I come. The food is spectacular. Try it. You'll like it. And don't be afraid to try local foods when you're in port, because a lot of it is great local foods. When you're cruising on Carnival Cruise Lines and you arrive in port, be adventuresome, especially after this show. There's some great ethnic foods to try almost everywhere we stop. Don't be afraid. Like in Hawaii, for example. Great ethnic foods. For example. Well, I don't have to ask you if y'all ever heard of that. All right, well, guess what? Y'all recognize it. Now, this one I don't understand. Hawaii has a love affair with Spam. Do you know what's in it? I remember in the 50s, my mom used to put it in our sandwiches, and I'd ask her the same question, what's in it? And she wouldn't tell me. Now, Hawaiians never forgot, all right? They sell over 7 million cans of Spam are eaten in Hawaii every single year. They serve Spam in restaurants, breakfast, lunch, dinner, weddings, rich, poor, young, dating. Everybody in Hawaii loves their Spam. It's a Hawaiian culinary tradition. I'm not making this up. Check this out. They even make upside down Spam cake. Upside down Spam pineapple cake. Now there's one to try, all right? What's up? I haven't seen this one on the Food Network yet, actually. Now the Spam love affair dates back to World War II. If you want to know where it started, I'm going to tell you right now. American GIs were served it in Hawaii, okay? They were served it in the Hawaiian heat, in the sea rations. You know why? Because it didn't require refrigeration. And it had an indefinite shelf life. Now there's a great gourmet treat for you. How'd you like to sit down and have a meal of something that'll never go bad, ever? I don't know. The soldiers called it Special Army Meat, SPAM, all right? And the Hawaiians developed a taste for it. Now it's called Hawaiian steak. One famous Hawaiian chef wrote this. I'm going to read it to you, okay? You know, drink of water here. One Hawaiian chef actually wrote this about Spam. Once Spam is cooked, it's like a beautiful piece of steak with a lot of marbling. Marbling which keeps it moist, adds to the flavor. Spam has got a lot of fat through it too, so when it cooks, the delicious flavor and the beautiful red coating comes out. Now, that, folks, is what will happen to you if you eat enough Spam. I don't think that guy will ever be on the Food Network, okay? I don't see the comparison myself. Here's something popular. A lot of popular ways to make Spam. Breakfast, Spam and eggs with rice is a popular meal. How about Spam musabi? It's rice, seaweed, and Spam, okay? Excuse me. Spam fried rice, noodle Spam. Look, you got your hand over your mouth like this. Noodle Spam, all popular dishes. Here's a few I thought I'd never see. McDonald's serving up Spam, rice, eggs. And how about this? Spam in the box. You ever go to Jack in the Box? Spam in the box, guys. And they serve it none other than Jack in the Box. So that's a great reason, guys, to visit Hawaii, isn't it? It is. Here's another good reason to visit Hawaii. Every April, there's a Spam Jam held in Honolulu. This is true. Every April, I haven't even cracked the can on how many different ways there are to cook this stuff. Now this is serious. This is one of my favorites in Hawaii. I want it to be one of your favorites when you go to Hawaii. It is really delicious. It's called poke. Some people pronounce it poke. You get the gist of it. It's bite-sized pieces of raw fish doused in seasoning. It's served in Hawaiian homes, restaurants, side dishes, and let me tell you, no party in Hawaii would be complete without this. Let me tell you, if you don't like raw fish, try poke. It does not taste like fish. You are absolutely going to love it. For centuries, Hawaiian fishermen cut their catch up in little square pieces, little cubes, and they seasoned it with whatever ingredients they had. Modern versions make use of all different seasonings, all different kinds of recipes, soy sauce, onions, tomatoes, chilies, just about everything you can imagine. It's very common in Hawaii when you come to port, you can go to a grocery store, and my wife and I do this when we get to Hawaii. You beeline to any of the large grocery stores, and you know that big glass case where they have all the meats? There will be one case with 20 different types of poke, all pre-prepared, ready to eat. Get a little container and try it. You will be shocked. It is delicious, and it's fresh every single day. Now, even though most Hawaiian comfort food is not considered gourmet food, poke over the years has come up to that level. It's served in fancy restaurants, and it can be very expensive in some places. In fact, once a year, Sam Choi, one of Hawaii's most famous chefs, hosts a 3-day poke contest on the Big Island. Chefs come from Canada, Hawaii, the South Pacific, United States. It's held every March. We just missed it. And the public is invited for the tastings. This stuff is really, really good. My wife already told me we're coming next year. We missed it by a month this year. Let's talk about shave ice. You all know what snow cones is, right? Let's talk about shave ice for a second, because you need an education on it. Snow cones ground the ice, very porous, all right? Shave ice, there's a special machine that shaves the ice as fine as snow. Real shave ice is so fine, you can take it and blow it off your hand like that. That's not a snow cone. Shave ice is so fine that the sauces and stuff, syrup they put on it, soaks into the shave ice, doesn't sink to the bottom of the chunky ice like a snow cone. It's really, really special, and it's made on a special machine. Now, shave ice can actually be found just about everywhere in Hawaii. You're going to see shave ice signs. Coffee shops, 7-Eleven, lunch wagons, all the festivals, public places. Now, along with shave ice, you can add a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Maybe some azuki beans, which are really sweet red beans. I've had it this way, and it's absolutely delicious and thirst-quenching. Now, this place I have up on the screen, Matsumoto's on the north side of Oahu, is particularly famous for their shave ice. It used to be my favorite, okay? They used to use a vintage machine to make it. But guess what? Things change. Things change over time. Last time I visited Matsumoto's, I was totally disappointed with their shave ice. They used to have a small, old-fashioned Hawaiian store. Now it's become a tourist attraction. It became so fancy. And the shave ice is more like a snow cone. But fear not, because you only got to walk about a half a block down the street, and you're going to find San Lorenzo shave ice, made the old-fashioned way. And it is unbelievable the way I like it, and I guarantee the way that you will like it. Let's talk about coffee. We're going to talk about coffee now, something we can all relate to. Specialty in a lot of ports that we visit, especially on Carnival. For example, Hawaii has Kona coffee. Jamaica has Blue Mountain coffee, considered one of the best in the world. You go to Costa Rica, you have Costa Rican coffee. You can even do coffee tastings there. You can go to the plantations, okay? It's really a nice experience. Now, coffee was first used in Ethiopia, way back when. And I'm not exactly sure how far back when is, all right, just way back when. Well, also long ago, coffee was used as an aphrodisiac, all right, and an enema. Yeah, there's a combination for you. Aphrodisiac and enema, all in one. Well, you may laugh at the enema thing, but you know what? The idea has come back big time, okay? Nowadays, A coffee enema is used by New Agers and Hollywood stars to treat all sorts of ailments. Now, just to let you know, I would never do that one myself, or with help for that, whatever. But that brings me to this thought, guys. Whoever invented the enema? Who thought it up? Did a bunch of guys sitting around like you guys here say, I'm not feeling too good today. I think I'll squirt a bunch of warm water up my butt. Whoa! That was pretty good. I think I'm going to try some French roast. And then that was so good, I'm going to try a double shot latte. Woo! All right? Well, I don't know, but it seems a little weird to me. Let's talk a little bit about when coffee really became popular, okay? In the United States, we had the Boston Tea Party, okay? That's when people in our country rebelled against the high taxes on tea, and drinking tea became unpatriotic, and people started drinking more and more coffee. They acquired a taste for coffee. But the real big boom in coffee started in the 1920s and the 1930s. Nescafe, American manufacturer, started making instant freeze-dried coffee. I'm sure you remember Sanka, Maxwell House, and whatever is in your country, those freeze-dried coffees. Well, coffee makers like selling this kind of new coffee because it had less shipping weight and a much longer shelf life, all right? Beans became stale in a week after they were roasted. So what do? Coffee makers hired advertisers, Madison Avenue in New York. They wanted to sell this new coffee to the public. Well, all the ads on radio and newspaper showed the new modern woman was too busy and too important to waste her time in the kitchen brewing coffee all day for her husband. And the ladies wanted to be modern back then, right? Well, there you have it. It worked. Maxwell House, one of the major manufacturers, wanted to corner the market in our country. Know what they did? They put free packets of freeze-dried coffee in sea rations during World War II. So when the soldiers came home, what kind of coffee were they used to? Bingo, freeze-dried coffee. Today in the US, most of us really don't like instant coffee, but I hear in Britain it's still very common. Now let me tell you about some of the most expensive coffee in the world, okay? Especially if you're a coffee aficionado. See that little guy up there? That's in Vietnam. That's a civet. A civet is a cute little rodent about this big. And if you have civet coffee, let me tell you how they make it. They feed these civets coffee beans, lots of them. And then someone has the unusual job of picking the coffee beans out of the civet poop. And then they clean it, process it, and they make coffee with it. You know what? Civet coffee sells for up to $500 a pound. That's the truth. My wife went to Vietnam last year with her girlfriend, and when she came home, she was so happy to tell me I had some civet coffee and some animal poop. Good, sleep downstairs. You ain't getting a kiss from me to welcome you home, not a chance. All right, guess why that guy's up there? Elephants, the most expensive coffee in the world, comes from elephant poop. It's called black ivory coffee. Do you imagine? They feed elephants coffee beans by the bushel basket, and they poop them out. And then they pick them out. That's way different than picking it out of weasel poop, let me tell you. Now, let's believe whatever happens to the beans in the digestive system of these animals actually takes a lot of the bitterness out of the coffee beans and produces better coffee. This stuff goes for up to $1,000 a pound. And you know what? You think those poopy picker-uppers have that same little washing machine you have upstairs for the hands? You imagine having that for a job? So, I got a hangnail. Well, just kidding. All right, it's called black ivory coffee, okay? It's only sold in 5-star hotels in Asia and the Middle East. There's only one store in the United States that sells it. It's in Texas, and it's called the Elephant Story. And now, folks, you heard it on Carnival. Why some coffee tastes like something you shouldn't drink. All right? Now, any chocolate lovers out there? Come on. Yeah, we're all chocolate lovers. Well, a lot of the countries that Carnival goes to produce chocolate. Some of the best chocolate in the world. Fiji, Mexico, Costa Rica, a lot of the Caribbean islands. In fact, Grenada in the Caribbean has the Grenada Chocolate Company. Remember this one, Grenada Chocolate Company. It's a bean-to-bar company. They plant it, they grow it, they pick it, they process it. From growing the cocoa bean to the final chocolate bar. Now the guy who started the company, this is an interesting story. He came from a very wealthy family in New York City. And he didn't want any part of the family's money or the family's life. So he changed his name. And he moved into the jungles in Grenada, and he became a hermit for years. Eventually, he discovered his calling. He woke up. He wanted to help the locals, and he wanted to get them better jobs. He also loved his chocolate, and he discovered some of the best cocoa beans in the world come from Grenada. So, what did he do? He built a factory. He built a factory. They use all organic ingredients. He hired a lot of the locals and paid them higher wages than they could make anywhere else in Grenada. Once again, firsthand, I can tell you that his chocolate really is the best. We visited his factory, and guess what? It tasted great, and I'm a chocoholic. This chocolate has won 3 silver medals at the London Academy of Chocolate. That is not an easy task. The owner's been called one of the best bean-to-bar producers in the world. They even made a movie about this guy. Unfortunately, the reason they made the movie, there's a little sad note to this story. Are y'all watching that? There's a sad note to this story. I was devastated at the ending of this story. He was electrocuted in 2013 while working on some solar-powered machinery to make the factory safer and more eco-friendly. But thank goodness, the factory is still making chocolate, and you can still buy it today in Grenada. In fact, you can drive up to the factory if you go up there and can have a tour and a tasting. And it's also available at a lot of major grocery stores and the internet online. Just punch up Grenada Chocolate Factory and you can buy some of their bars. Now here's a chocolate story I think you're all going to love. All right, another one of my truisms here. Raise your hand. How many are married? Come on, how many of you are married? You love your spouse, right? Do you ever not tell them something? Keep something from your spouse? Lie to your spouse? No, yeah, right. Never. Okay? Well, this really happened. This happened about 10 years ago, but I still tell the story. My wife was still working. I was still working. We went up to San Francisco to a farmer's market, and we met a French chocolatier. Michel Richelieu was the guy's name. Had his beret on and this magnificent chocolate. He was just starting. He is now world famous. And his chocolates had all kinds of weird stuff in them. They were delicious, but they were also expensive. A little box of 6 chocolates, about as big as this clock, a little bigger, was 60 bucks. So we tasted this chocolate. Now, I was a designer for 44 and a half years. I designed very high-end kitchens. So I had just finished a kitchen for a very good chef, and she loved her chocolate. So I told my wife, you know what, Sue just wrote me a big check. Why don't we buy her a little box of this chocolate? She loves chocolate. And we did. He put like 6 pieces of chocolate in there. It was 65 bucks. So I bought it. We gave it to Sue. End of story, right? Now, about 7-8 months later, my wife went to work every morning. I went to work. I never came home during the day. I always went to work, came home at 6 or 7 o'clock. Well, one day I forgot something. You ever run home and you open the door, the phone's ringing, you run, you answer the phone, hello? So I open the door, I answer the phone, hello? He goes, hello, is Dr. K there? I say, no, she's not here right now. He goes, oh, well, tell her that we located her usual shipment. Oh, I was not supposed to call this number. I said, who is this? He goes, is this the chocolate guy? And he goes, oh, shoot. I go, what are you talking about? Just leave her a message. We found her usual shipment and it will be there today, clunk. Her usual shipment. So I didn't go back to work that day. I stayed home. Now where I live out on the road, we live up in the mountains, and about from here to that post down my driveway, there's a big plastic box that makes a big clunking noise when the postage guy drops things off. And I heard him drop it off, clunk, clunk. So I run outside, I open it up, and there's a box like this. I carry it in the house, Michel Richelieu chocolates. How did I ever miss that? So I opened it up carefully in the kitchen. I can't imagine what this box of chocolate cost, and it was her usual shipment. So she usually comes home at 7 o'clock from her office. So I took all the chocolate out, I repackaged it. When I opened it, I was very careful with the tape. I put it back. And I put the box back in the bin outside, empty. And I went upstairs and I pretended I was sleeping about 10 after 7 because I knew she comes home at 7. Now my house is 2.5-story living room, and when you're on the balcony upstairs, you see in the living room windows at night, they're like mirrors. You can see backwards underneath into the kitchen. So I heard her drive up. I heard clunk, clunk, the box open, and I hear her come into the kitchen, and she was smart. Mister, where are you? I said, I'm sleeping, leave me alone. You know, I'm trying to sleep, and I'm looking down. You know. She's in the kitchen, she opens the box, and she went just out of my view. And I heard her, second time that day, I heard this. Oh, shoot. I said, what's the matter? Oh, nothing. And then I see papers flying. She goes, God. I said, what's the matter? She goes, someone stole something, I think, out of a shipment that came. I said, was it your usual shipment? She goes, where's my damn chocolate? She didn't even inhale. I said, your usual shipment, what are you doing? She goes, what's the difference? I spent my money on it. Well, I got to enjoy hiding it from her for about 8 minutes, all right? I gave her chocolate, but I think that's kind of a cute story. That's something to tell you a little bit something about Fiji, okay? Now, we've already been to Fiji, but I'm going to tell you something. They have something called kava. Kava is a mild narcotic drink that's made from the roots of a certain type of pepper plant. Traditionally, it's used in medicine, religion, politics, and gatherings, when people get together. It's used in ceremonial rituals also. I usually say when you get off the ship, okay? But we already got off the ship. Next time you go to Suva, go to the local farmer's market right a block away from the ship, an incredible market, and upstairs, the entire building is kava. You can learn all about it, you can see it, they'll tell you how they make it, row upon row upon row. You'll even be able to buy as a souvenir little coconut drinking bowls that they serve it out of. It's really, really neat. It's powdered. This is interesting. Nowadays, it's very popular for Fiji young men to gather nightly and have kava together, drink it together. They take turns pounding the root into a powder, then they wrap it in a cloth and slosh it around in a communal bowl of water, and it's just like mud. It's really bitter, and it's chalky tasting, it's nasty, okay? But that's a small price to pay for what this stuff does to you, okay? They call it grog, that's what they call it. Now, I wouldn't recommend you try it unless you're on a ship tour, because they use local water when they do it. So you want to be very careful. Now, eating healthy on a ship, is that possible? Absolutely, it's possible, but you got to work at it, guys. First, I got a big food problem at home. I have a big food problem with my wife at home, and I'm going to share it with you here. It's hard to buy, we've been married 47 years. When you're married a long time, it's really hard to buy each other something because what else do you need, right? She doesn't like jewelry, she doesn't like clothes, she doesn't like shopping. But Janae loves food, and I love food. We're foodaholics. So when I try to bring her some special treat, she's really happy, and she eats it with gusto. But later that evening, she gets mad at me because I caused her to get fat. It's all my fault. Everything's always my fault. Over and over again. Loves the food, punishes me for her eating it. Well, I solved the problem. Took a chance one last time, Mother's Day last May, all right? Breakfast in bed. You ladies like breakfast in bed, right? I decided, gonna do this one last time, and I'm gonna catch the wrath for it. I made Janae breakfast in bed. I'm a really good cook, and I went all out, all right? I got a big tray, I put her good dishes on it, and I stacked it with homemade strawberry crepes, not a diet food. Beautiful, gorgeous, homemade pastries. I topped it off with a glass of her favorite champagne. Walked into the bedroom, Happy Mother's Day, honey. And she was about where this lady is. I had the tray, and she was smiling, and I knew I was going to catch it later. Wow, you made all that for me, thank you so much. And the closer I got, the smile went away. You know why? Because what I did, I knew I'd catch hell for giving her that. So I got a really expensive magazine, a gourmet magazine, and I cut out pictures of her favorite stuff and glued them to the plates. She did not like when the tray got to the bed. I even got a piece of cardboard and glued the champagne glass to it so it would stand up. Did I do that or not? Yeah. And then I caught heck anyway, because I wanted to do the right thing. It was cold out, so I gave her a warm bowl of porridge. That didn't fly on Mother's Day either. All right. It is easy to eat healthy on your cruise and even lose weight, actually. Last year I did speak on more cruises than I've ever been on before, and guess what? In 6 months I lost 38 pounds. I'm almost up to 40 pounds now. Carnival offers a lot of really delicious choices. You just have to look for them and use your head. Even Janae doesn't gain weight on the cruises anymore. Let's get down to some healthy choices on the ship. For breakfast, the options are endless, but there is oatmeal, eggs cooked a lot of different ways, toast, yogurt, lots of smoked salmon if you ask for it. And if you got to be a little bit bad, have just a little bit of bacon, not the usual skyscraper of food that people manage to get on a plate this big and balance it back to your table. For lunch, there's a lot to choose from there also. Lots of veggies, for example. Salad bar has a lot of stuff to choose from. You want to order a sandwich? Order half a sandwich. You don't have to eat a whole sandwich. And I found out using mustard is as good as using mayonnaise, and it actually tastes better. And don't forget the pizza on Carnival. That's one of my favorites. It's a very thin crust gourmet pizza, and you can order it with less cheese if you want. So be careful with what you eat. And if you got to eat meat, eat a piece the size of the palm of your hand unless you're Shaq O'Neal. All right? That's a very healthy way to eat. Now for dessert, fresh fruit and Jell-O are great choices. But do you think for a second I'm going to preach to you on self-control when they put all that stuff in front of you? Well, just go for it. You can always eat healthy tomorrow. Now, we're here on Carnival. You recognize that one, right? Chocolate melting cake, Carnival signature dessert. Let's go back for a second to my wife's chocolate addiction, all right? One day last year on the cruise, she told me she didn't want to eat dinner, all right? Due to the fact that she'd eaten a big lunch, and she didn't want to gain any weight. She just wanted a salad up at the Lido. I go down to the dining room every night and sit with a different group of people every night to meet them and have a good time. She says, so I said, okay. I ate in the main dining room, and she warned me, as she usually does, especially now that I lost the weight, don't eat any junk, don't eat all those desserts, just have a nice dinner, come upstairs, and we'll do something a little bit later. So I went upstairs. I had my dinner. I went upstairs, Janae's reading. I'm looking for her. And there's a big post like this here, only about this big in the dining room. And I'm looking for Janae, and then I see her gym shoes sticking out from behind the post. So I go over, Janae, is that you? And I look around the corner. What do I see? Here's my wife, and there's 4 empty ramekins that had chocolate melting cake, 2 empty glasses of milk, and 1 fork. I said, is that you? She goes, oh, Stephen, you won't believe it. I met the nicest 2 couples. They brought some dessert over. They just had it, and they just got up and left. You think that would have flown if I told her I did that? Not a chance. She was 50 shades of red, but I let it slide. But cruising this season, she came prepared with some new information on healthy eating so she wouldn't be embarrassed. There was a recent study done by Professor Philo Mint at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. This guy is a very famous heart researcher, and you're going to love this. After extensive research, he concluded that eating 100 grams of fat each day lowered the risk of heart attack by 25% and lowered the risk of stroke by 23%. Now, the exciting part of this is eating 100 grams is equal to 2 whole chocolate bars a day. So, my wife interpreted this to me that eating 4 chocolate molten cakes reduces her risk of heart attack by 100%. And you want me to be healthy, don't you, honey? She got me again. And that's, again, something there's no way I would try to pull on her. All right, now I try to leave you with a controversial question to talk about at dinner every show I do, and I'm going to do the same here today. All right, something you can all talk about. Listen to this. You all hear of 3D printers, haven't you? 3D printers are big. Well, there is a 3D printer being tested right now, and it works. being tested that's going to be used on soldiers all over the world stationed in remote areas. And what exactly does it do? Well, first, it takes a blood sample of the soldier. Then it analyzes the blood on the spot to see what nutrients this guy is missing out in the field. Then the printer will print out a tasty, healthy meal for him each day to eat. Now, don't ask me how these things work, but they do. You can Google it. I haven't got a clue. But this might be the wave of the future. So my question for you to discuss at dinner tonight, guys, listen up. Would you rather go shopping at the grocery store, spend hours in the kitchen preparing your family's meals, sometimes ending up with food that might not taste very good or food that might not be healthy for your family? Or would you be more satisfied with food that looks great, tastes delicious, is healthy for you, takes no time to prepare, and it pops out of your copy machine? Now talk about that one at dinner tonight. I have one other question to ask all of you. How did I do? Did y'all enjoy this show?